Kash Patel's pending nomination for FBI director embodies President-elect Trump's desire to disrupt.
I'd shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one and reopening the next day as a museum of the deep state.
Patel rose to prominence during Trump's first term.
And Kash Patel is here, one of our real warriors.
The current FBI director, Christopher Wray, who was appointed by Trump in 2017, has 3 years left on a 10-year term. He would have to resign or be fired.
You're fired. Get out of here.
Texas Republican Senator Ted Cruz, who joins us this morning from Houston. Senator, it's good to see you. Good morning to you. Kash Patel, suggested by President Trump as the new leader of the FBI. How enthusiastic are you about that?
Listen, I think Kash Patel is a very strong nominee. I think the entire slate of cabinet nominees President Trump has put forward is very strong. I believe every one of these cabinet nominees is going to be confirmed by the Senate. I think Kash Patel is going to be confirmed by the Senate. You look at his background. He has a serious professional background. He was a prosecutor. He was a public defender. He was a senior intelligence staffer on Capitol Hill. He was a senior intelligence staffer in the White House. He was the chief of staff of the Department of Defense. He was the deputy director of national intelligence.
I'd shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one and reopening the next day as a museum of the deep state.
And I got to say, all of the weeping and gnashing of teeth, all of the people pulling their hair out are exactly the people who are dismayed about having a real reformer come into the FBI and clean out the corrupted partisans who sadly have burrowed into senior career positions at the FBI. The FBI and the Department of Justice are two institutions incredibly important to the rule of law in the United States. I revere both. And one of the most tragic consequences of 4 years of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is both DOJ and the FBI have been politicized and weaponized. And I think Kash Patel is a very strong nominee to take on the partisan corruption in the FBI.
I'd shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one and reopening the next day as a museum of the deep state.
As you know, Senator, there isn't a vacancy at the top of the FBI. What should become of Christopher Wray, appointed by President Trump?
You're fired. Get out of here.
Either he will resign or President Trump will fire him. But it's no secret to anybody, including Chris Wray, that he is not going to continue to serve as the head of the FBI under Donald Trump. Listen, if you look at James Comey and Chris Wray, there has never been a period in our nation's history where the FBI has suffered a greater loss of respect, where more Americans doubt the fundamental integrity of the FBI. And it's because James Comey and Chris Wray presided over allowing the FBI to become a partisan cudgel, to be used to target parents at school board meetings, to be used to target people who chose not to take the COVID vaccine, to be used to target President Trump and to target the political opponents of Joe Biden in the White House. It is tragic. That is not what the FBI is for. That is not what the DOJ is for. And I got to say, Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, I think together are a very strong slate of nominees to go and restore integrity to both institutions.
The prosecutions of Bob Menendez, a congressman, a Democrat from Texas, Hunter Biden. Are those political prosecutions as well or not?
Bob Menendez was literally caught with gold bars and a stack of cash with his fingerprints taking bribes. And it's why Bob Menendez is not my colleague anymore. At that point, the evidence was overwhelming. Look, Major, I wrote an entire book entitled Justice Corrupted, How the Left Has Weaponized the Legal System. And it broke down. It started, sadly, under Barack Obama, where he began using the federal government to target his political opponents. The book details how many of those partisans then burrowed in to senior career positions during the Trump administration. They waged war against President Trump during his first term. And now under Joe Biden, they have been open and brazen. And I think it has done unbelievable damage to the integrity of the Department of Justice and the FBI. I think Merrick Garland will go down in history as the most partisan attorney general our nation has ever seen. And I got to say, I hear regularly from prosecutors, from FBI agents who are deeply dismayed about the institution they've devoted a lifetime working for. Because, listen, I don't want a Republican Department of Justice. I don't want a Democrat Department of Justice. I want a Department of Justice and an FBI that enforces the law regardless of party. And sadly, we haven't seen that these last 4 years. I got to say, you look at the threat of tariffs against Mexico and Canada immediately has produced action. We've seen the president of Mexico stand up and promise that she is going to work hand in hand with the president of the United States, President Trump, to secure the border. I'll tell you, representing Texas, we've seen 4 years of an invasion at our southern border. And let me ask you, Major, why hasn't Joe Biden done this? Why hasn't Joe Biden actually stood up and used leverage to secure the border? And the reason is Joe Biden and the Democrats wanted this invasion to happen. And I got to say, this is a promise that I believe President Trump is going to deliver on and deliver quickly. We are going to secure the border. This is about using leverage to get Mexico and Canada to cooperate. And I'll tell you, Major, I think one of the very first bills we're going to take up in the Senate, vote on, and I hope pass, is my legislation, the Justice for Jocelyn Act, that is a response to the horrific rape and murder of Jocelyn Nungaray, 12-year-old girl in Houston, Texas, killed by violent criminal illegal aliens released by Joe Biden and the Democrats. This is a promise the president needs to deliver on. I think he's going to. Well, look, I think the president was explicit with Mexico and Canada. He said he will impose these tariffs unless they secure the border. It was explicitly leverage. And by the way, that is the same way that President Trump negotiated the Remain in Mexico agreement. If you remember, during his first term, President Trump threatened tariffs against Mexico, and AMLO, then the president of Mexico, he was incredibly scared and concerned. He was scared of Trump, and he ended up signing the Remain in Mexico agreement, which produced the lowest rate of illegal immigration in 45 years. It was incredibly successful. What did Joe Biden and the Democrats do when they came in? The very first week in office, they ripped up that incredibly successful international agreement. I expect we will once again enter into Remain in Mexico, and we are going to see, I'm going to make a prediction right now, we will see the numbers plummet of illegal immigration coming into this country, not in a year, not in 6 months, but in January and February, because we will have a president who will vigorously enforce the law. We have still seen over these 4 years the highest rate of illegal immigration in our nation's history. 12 million illegal immigrants have come into this country. And I got to say, in a state like Texas, you want to see the consequences. This last election was an incredible landslide for President Trump. He won all 7 of the swing states. And in Texas, President Trump won Hispanic voters in Texas. I won Hispanic voters in Texas. I won statewide by 1 million votes, 9 points. And South Texas, the Rio Grande Valley, has literally spent over 100 years as a bright blue Democrat bastion. This cycle, South Texas flipped Republican, and it is amazing what having 12 million people invade your home can do to change people's voting behavior. I think the president has a mandate to deliver on securing the border, and I look forward to working hand in hand with him to deliver on that promise.